Hey everyone, it's Emily Fox. Today's video is going to be my September wrap-up. So I'm going to be sharing with you all the books that I've read this month. You're probably wondering, did I read anything? I feel like the slump has been like following me all year long. But I did finish 5 different books, which I think is not too bad. And actually 2 of these I actually really liked. Can I say actually one more time? The first book I finished was The Radium Girls, Dark History of America's Shining Women. The book is a nonfiction, and the story you're following is the one of the women that were hired to use a paint that had radium in it to paint, I believe they were all watches, basically the dial. And they would use a brush and put it in their mouth to get it really pointy to do so, and obviously since the paint had some radium in it, they had health issues that got really bad really fast, and then you're following after a couple of them died the battle basically to get justice, because you realize that the company knew before they said so, and then they let things get this bad basically. And yeah, it was honestly horrible. The book was great, but the story was just so sad, and I listened to it as an audiobook, and I remember at like an hour and a half into it, one of the girls was going to the doctor, and he just touched her jaw. Most of them had issue in their mouth first, obviously, since this is where they would put the paint. And if you don't know, basically radium tends to act like calcium, and it will go and settle into the bones of people, and obviously create cancer and everything. And he touched her jaw, and the jaw just fell off. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. I'm like 1 hour into the book. How is this possible? Like, how bad could this get? And sadly, the answer is worse. I would recommend the book. I don't recommend the audiobook because even though the narrator did a perfectly fine job, the person editing the book didn't cut whenever she would swallow. And some chapters were fine, but some of them I was going crazy. So I don't recommend the audiobook, but the book I do recommend. I believe I gave it 4 stars. I don't like giving ratings on nonfiction, but like I'm just giving it quickly because but I do recommend the book. I am absolutely traumatized, and I'm just left wondering, what is like the radium of right now? Like, what are companies trying to hide even though they might know? I feel like I'm sounding like a conspiracy theorist, but yeah, right? So do recommend it if you are interested. Don't recommend the audiobook for it. The next book I finished was I'm Thinking of Ending Things by Ian Reid. This is one of the weirdest books that I've read. I feel like I should do a video about the weirdest books I've read, because a few of the ones I've read were just really weird, and I was trying to figure out, like, obviously this is a thriller, horror, but like in those type of books I'm always trying to figure out what's gonna happen before it happens, and to not cheat I usually try and tell someone to, like, that way I don't have a choice but to admit if I was wrong. But I got some of it right, but not all of it. I can't say much more than 2 people go to meet one person's family, and things just become weirder and weirder, and this is it. I'm Thinking of Ending Things doesn't mean suicide, by the way. I know, like, it might kind of sound like this. The person is just thinking about ending the relationship. But yeah, I don't know if I recommend this book. I gave it 3 stars. If you like really, really, really weird books, you might like this. If not, it's not my first recommendation if you are looking for books for the fall. I'm like starting, as you can see, reading some, and I'm just really still confused. Like, it's one of those books you put down and you're like, what did I just read? Like, I have no idea what's going on here. So yeah, I don't know how I feel about this. It's just weird. Oh yeah, I finally read Red Sister by Mark Lawrence, and this was epic. I finally went back into fantasy. I don't know why I haven't read a lot of fantasy this year, because I know I will like them, and for some reason I was in the mood. I was scared to read them and not being in the right place and not enjoy them as much as I should. You know what I mean. Fantasy book. I think this I would consider in between YA and adult. I believe it is technically categorized as adult, I think. But if you are a YA reader, definitely a book I would recommend you check out, because you're following the main character in between the age of 9 and 12, so I don't feel like it was inaccessible if you're a YA reader. Let me start. This is kind of, it doesn't claim to be, but I feel like it's kind of post-apocalyptic a tiny bit, because something happened to the planet and people are stuck living like pretty much at the equator. I'm not gonna even attempt saying that in English. There's not a lot of place on the planet that isn't full of ice and just snow and everything. So they are all stuck there, so obviously creates a lot of tensions. The main character is basically abandoned by her family, and she is sent to a place where there are some really badass nuns that have magical power, and it's like basically a magical school, and yes, it's like one of my favorite things to read, so highly recommend this. She obviously learns to fight and magic, and I don't want to say anything else, to be honest, because the least you know the better. It's great. There are some classic tropes, like again, basically she doesn't know a dad, so it's not really orphan, but kinda. There's supposed to be like some type of legend of like the chosen one type of thing, so I recommend it. I give it, I believe, 4.5. I do want to mention quickly, I do feel like it goes in a wave of like being really fast paced and a bit slower. I don't think it prevented me from enjoying it. I do think it's important to mention it again, just in case you read it and you might be, oh, it's slowing down, but it will pick up, and I cannot wait to read the rest. The only reason I'm not reading it right now is, first off, I had to order it, and second of all, I'm starting to go to my fall readings, so I have to like put my fantasy stuff down, which sucks a little, but love this. Totally recommend it. The next audiobook I listened to was, again, a nonfiction. It was Born a Crime by Trevor Noah. I recommend the audiobook if you are going to read this because the author is the one narrating it and he does a really great job at it. He's a very charismatic person, and it's just his life story, so I'm not comfortable, again, giving a rating to it. It just sounds a little crazy to do, but if I had to, 4.5, 4? I don't know. It's basically his life story living in Africa during, well, he was basically a child whenever the apartheid was still a thing, and then the consequences of that afterwards, considering that he was born a crime. He was half white, half black, and he had to figure out his place in there, considering that he was kind of an outcast in actually with mix and then black and then white because of how he was raised. And I do think it was a really interesting book. Definitely recommend it. And then last but not least, another favorites, another fantasy slash post-apocalyptic. Actually, I'm realizing Red Sister and the 5th season have some similarities. I had no idea what this book was about. All I knew was post-apocalyptic fantasy, and I was like, what is that? Oh my god, so good. I am gonna not say too much about it because I consider this type of book being better not knowing too much, but again, the world is very complicated to explain, so I'm not really gonna attempt to do so too much. But people that do have magical powers are feared, and if it's a child, they usually just kill them, or they are sent to a specific place where they are taught magic, but not in like a you're free to learn magic. It's more like you're controlled and then you're used as a tool and tortured if you don't actually follow those rules. And you're following 3 different story slash timelines, and it can be a little confusing whenever you're reading it for the first time, because I know whenever I would hear reviews of this, it would basically be, oh, the first half is a little slow, and I don't agree, but I understand that it just, you need to understand what's going on because you're following 3 different ones. And one of those actually timeline, you're following someone that the story is told as the second person, so you can be a little weird to read, but I so enjoy this. And I loved how, first of all, I love magic system, I love the world building, I want to know more. And I love how the author created complex, interesting characters, LGBTQ plus characters too, and it just, the characters, I'm so tired of reading books where the characters feel like caricature, like especially female characters, and there were so many great ones here. Too often you have 2 different type of female characters. You either have the helpless girl that needs a boy to come and save her, and then to kind of counteract this, you have the other extreme where the female character is such a badass that you even look at her wrong, she'll kill you, she's invincible, and it's just like too much. They just don't feel real. And I feel like it's not the case here. People like actually have normal thought processes. Like the main character at one point, someone annoys her, for example, and she'll like control herself, but she'll still roll her eyes and be like, that person is annoying, you know what I mean? She'll still be pissed because she's human, you know? I completely understand why this book won some awards. I'm giving it 5 stars. I need to read the next books. Like the next 2 are on my shelves and I want to read them. But again, I'm supposed to go to my fall readings and I don't know what's going to happen. They're probably going to be all included in the same TBR, and I'm going to try and control myself not to read this. But we shall see. But yes, highly recommend this. If you're looking for a new fantasy sci-fi, you need to read this. And Red Sister, but you need to read this. So good. So as you can see, I had a really great reading month. Technically, you might have noticed I didn't mention my big book of the month because I am kind of completely failing at this challenge. I had replaced the big book of the month by this trilogy. I was supposed to read the whole trilogy, but I didn't put myself like a limit of time I have till the end of the year type of thing. So I think I still did okay. And technically Red Sister is over 500 pages, so I did read a big book. We're just gonna pretend that challenge is not a thing anymore. Have you read any of the books I mentioned today? What do you think about them? What were your favorite books of the month? I need to know. Don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe because you don't want to miss all the fall books that are coming up next. I will be putting on the screen other videos that I've done that I recommend you check out, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.